present.
Did it?
That is the whole board. Oh, well,
And you, I guess,
Yeah,
as
I'm
well?
a
Okay.
double dip,
Oh,
but yes,
would
the whole
do-
board is here. Okay. Do we have an approval of the agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda for the special meeting of the Village Board of Trustees and DDA for June 27th at 7:15 or whatever we started at.
Support?
Okay, so motion by Parker, support by Bartholomew to approve the agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
Is there any opposed? There is none opposed. We have public comment.
That would be our reporter.
Yeah.
Any public
Okay.
comment?
Let's move into our new business, parking in lieu of payment ordinance discussion between the boards. We're here today because we need to figure out a solution. So the joint meeting, I have given to everybody, I can't even recall how long ago I got this packet that I printed for everybody. Back when I just started on the DDA. This has been an ongoing, I found a newspaper from, I think it was 2002 the other day, that was talking about parking in Romeo. This has just been an ongoing thing here.
This was from 2006.
So I found what I had, we can all look at. Paul just brought us some more maps.
I just brought it out, so we're all looking at the same thing.
Yeah.
Makes it easy.
So,
We have some empty seats if anybody wants to.
or if you want to come on up.
Yeah, we'll give you the microphone.
I guess I had a question. What, if someone can articulate what the goal of collecting the parking in lieu of funds originally was, what it is now?
And is it, just to add on to the question, is it something that's in writing of what these funds are being used for, or is it up to the village council to make that decision?
Well, then also piggyback on that is what would the long-term goals of the funds be even used for in real time?
Yeah, because if we're asking to clarify from the past, I believe the intention was to obtain and create more parking. If we were going to talk about going forward, I would add to that maintenance of current.
Exactly.
Is that
The
documented
maintenance
in
I'm
ordinance?
confused on is maintenance covered by the taxes?
Currently,
So-
and that is why we have parking lots in disarray that need to be redone, because that is not supported
Yeah, and that-
enough through the taxes.
Kind of also why we just went out and asked the taxpayers to pay more money for the roads, right? Because that's all supposed to be maintained based on the tax base brought in also. And,
Is it not being maintained?
but it's never enough.
It's
right?
underfunded.
I don't know. I don't have
Yeah.
funding.
It's, I mean, obviously, we're asking the taxpayers of the village to pay a significant amount of money to redo the roads.
So you would
Right.
only ask the people that come in and want to put a business here to fix all the roads, not the people that are actually here, that have actually ruined the roads? That does not make any sense, though.
No, I think we're talking
No, I'm
past
just
and
saying the
current.
roads, I'm not saying the parking lot, I'm saying it's in the same, in the same aspect, right? With parking lots and roads, I mean, they're all driven on, it's the same reason, right? Yeah, taxes come in to maintain as long as you can, but still, parking needs to be redone, right? Just like roads need to be redone. So when that happens, there's a special assessment, there's a millage, there's something, there's a parking in lieu of fee that's acquired and hopefully
That's not
saved.
what that money was to be used for originally. The parking in lieu was not there for maintenance. It was only there to purchase.
So the
additional
parking in lieu
property,
of
which
went
in
into
the
place
last
years
100
ago.
years has never happened.
And it's never been obtained, never been acquired. No one's ever taken a payment for a parking in lieu of, ever.
Right.
So to say it's been brought into place, what his intentions was, it's never happened. This is all still new. Everyone keeps kicking it down the road.
But I think
And
why-
we're at a head right now
why
to
we're
discuss
here
it.
Is because I think that in lieu of is deterring people from moving to our village. And ultimately, DDA, that's our job. So we are finding that new customers that want to move here are deterred by that. So if it's never been in play, it's never been used for anything, and we really don't have a plan what it's used for, why would we have it out there to deter people to begin with?
If I could,
That's, I guess, my concern, so.
thanks, Paul. If I could just piggyback on what my original question was. Regardless of what has happened in the past, what we've done in the past. What is our objective? What are we trying to accomplish? We can argue all night long about why we did things in the past the way we did, how we came up with the $10,500 number. My question at this point is, what do we want to do now? What do we want to do going forward?
Thank you.
What do we want this to be? Because I personally believe there's some better ways we can acquire that money if we do decide that we want it to go toward maintenance. Instead of drips and drabs of one business that might come in the next 2 to 3 years, even if they pay that $10,500. It could sit there for however long, because you're never gonna have enough money to do what you wanna do with it.
Get it.
If we look at a possibility of having some paid parking, we don't have to have meters up, we don't have to have kiosks up, it's literally an app. It can generate thousands and thousands of dollars a year that is perpetual and continual and can go in this fund. My concern is, we'll have one business that comes in the next 5 years, they may be able to afford $10,500 a spot, and we're not gonna be anywhere. If we had some paid parking that is in the prime spots downtown, it will help encourage employees to not park there, which is part of the problem. If you've read through this study, I get that it's from 2006, but it talks to this being a perceived parking problem. It talks to the percentages of open parking spots downtown. They're high, they're open. The problem is, as they indicated, employees and business owners parking in the prime locations. Let's try to force them off Main Street. Let's do some paid parking. We can have discounts for residents. We can have all kinds of different things. I will say I understand in the past, people were panicked about having meters up and down Main Street. Don't worry, you don't need them. It's a simple app. It's like $495. It can be up in 2 days. It can be monitored by our police. Our police can see by your license plate how long you've been there.
Is it satellite driven? Is that how they
I
do it?
believe so, yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Okay, so if I could real quick, right? You started with a question, now we've got a statement, and I'm not trying to be rude, but is there a question to the 10,500, let's just throw that at the door? That was a past administration. It
No, this
got
is
put
why
into
we're all here.
place.
We're trying to come
I
up
know,
with
the 10,000
solutions.
That's why we eliminated it temporarily. I think everyone up here thinks it was outrageous. I don't think there's anyone that disagrees with that at this point.
I guess my
But
point
is
is,
there a question, I guess?
I guess my point is, even at this point, if you change that $10,500 to be $1,000, you're still gonna get drips and drabs. You're not gonna get a fund that you could really do anything with.
It's not a long-term solution.
It's not a long-term solution. We only have X number of spots downtown as far as buildings to be leased or businesses to be in them. So even if you had them full and you had $20,000 sitting in there, yeah, you might be able to do some maintenance, but what about next year? You can never count on that because it's not perpetual. So I guess my question is, that's a solution that I have. My suggestion, are there any other solutions that anybody has that we can talk about?
So another thing that we've talked about on the board is the DDA has funding and is focused on wayfinding. So in addition to what you're saying, is the DDA is willing to take on that financial cost, the effort cost of putting in the appropriate wayfinding signs to identify free parking lots, to identify those different areas. So, you know, as a board, we've discussed these things and we're willing to be that part of the solution to make it easy for people to do business in Romeo. Because right now, and not to, you know, beat a dead horse, all this is doing is pushing business out. So we can help with those wayfinding signs, we can help with the parking apps, and let's get those solutions to move the parking and move the parked cars where we want them to be, and then leave the flow for shoppers.
And it would give us, for our police to have something that they can actually use to enforce the parking.
See, I would argue that the police aren't gonna additionally force anything, but then I would piggyback on I don't think I've ever seen town more busy since I've been here as a kid, right? We have a lot of businesses that seem to be doing very well,
We have a
right?
lot of businesses that won't come here too, so.
We have some, but,
Well, no,
so
we have
then,
multiple that have not chosen to do business because of this ordinance.
We
I
have
would argue that
restaurants
it's
do
never
well.
been
When
enforced,
you take out
right?
the restaurants out of the play, are the rest of the businesses doing well? Because I think it's restaurant driven right now. We need to bring in other types of business to piggyback on the restaurants. We have some now, but, like, for example, that, beanery place, they didn't make it.
Well,
There's no, there's not no atmosphere.
I mean,
There's
I
no-
love the guy,
I know.
and he's a friend of mine,
Yeah.
and I'm on video saying, it was never currently, like consecutive, or, it was never open all the time, right?
Well, why would you go to that side of town when it's right next to a roofing company? You don't walk over there. There's no reason. to
Why
walk.
not? Because I had multiple calls, really, when are they open? Why are they not open?
Well, that's a whole
Right?
different
And
situation.
that's,
because
that,
we're not
the businesses
enforcing
that
our
don't seem to
business
make it
hours.
are not open when they should be. And I'm sorry,
But we have ordinances for that as well, but that's a different meeting and a different time.
So I think
Justin,
it-
can you go back to what you said, the police aren't going to enforce parking? Why aren't they going to enforce parking?
as the DDA, please explain that to me, because the DDA came to us asking us to put up temporary 15-minute parking so people could run in and out and get takeout, and then simply said, well, it's not enforceable, it's just a suggestion, right? So the
What does that
DDA
have
came
to
to us, John, am I wrong, and said that, right?
What do the signs have to do with the police enforcing what the signs?
Well, if
say?
that's a sign that says 15-minute parking,
So
2-hour parking, right? But we're not gonna enforce it, right?
Why not? Why is the police
should
not
be,
enforcing?
Because it was made publicly known at a meeting that it was a suggestion by the DDA director.
So, okay, so the DDA is responsible for telling the police what signs to enforce and what not to? I mean, I think that if
Yeah.
there's a sign up there, it needs to be enforced. Regardless of that, saying that the police are not going to enforce if we have paid parking, I think that's a little premature. I think we need to have conversations with the police chief, say, here's the app, here's what we can do, what do you think? How can you help us with a solution so that we can get this perceived parking issue gone? And we can start saving money to redo parking lots.
But to
And
say the
maintenance.
police are not gonna enforce something because the DDA director said they didn't have to is.
Well, if I could-
I'll follow up with saying the police have also said that they cannot,
I
because
say,
they can't.
there's
chalk
legal
tires.
issues.
They can't say how long actually someone's been there. Did they
But with
move a
these
spot?
apps,
Did
they
they move
would
an
be able
inch?
to.
Did they pull out and pull back in?
That's why I said with these apps. they
Right.
would
These
be able
apps.
to.
So
We're
can
going to
the app-
need to
can the app then
review
just
the
there be
legality
monitor
and the
at no
ability.
cost?
If it's allowed and if we can, then we will.
And that's that's the next discussion, but to shut something down and say a DDA director said that they shouldn't enforce it is kind of cutting off at our knees what we're trying to do.
Well,
to move this
so what you
project
get is
forward.
if it says 15-minute parking and we had no way to verify legally, no legal ability unless the officer sat there for 15 minutes. And that even then, how do you prove all of that to turn over a ticket? So if we then now have a way that is legally allowed and we can do it, then I would say everyone would be on board to do it. I just need to make sure that we can defend what we're doing.
But the pilot, really, that cost has nothing to do with any of the items we're talking about right now.
No.
Right.
So it's like, if we stick to just the pilot, so do we really have a parking issue? We understand, all of us, that parking is being abused, but there's absolutely nothing we can do about it, is what we're saying. I mean, at the end of the day.
I'm saying there is.
You're saying, but
Yeah.
in hindsight, we're saying that we can't do anything about it, that they can park there literally for days on end. So if that's the truth, then
Well, they would get ticketed overnight, right? From
Would they?
3 to 6. 3 to 6 a.m.
Could
You
they get
can't, you
ticketed
can't
for-
park on the parking, you can't park on the streets. The police do go around ticket. I know, several, but
But my understanding was the purpose of this was to come up with a solution so that the fee is not $10,500. So in my mind, what is the goal? What are you trying to accomplish with the $10,500, whatever the fee is? And is there another way to accomplish that?
So let's back up for what the fee, why it's there. So we have, I think, two issues, they piggyback off each other. first of all, is the parking codes up to date? I don't know. Has Romeo looked into how that compares to other areas as far as your parking requirements when it comes to?
Per occupancy.
Yeah, exactly. So is that in line? It might be, it might not be. But if, let's say it is in line, what the pileup is there for is to give a business an option to pay even $1 to circumvent that. Because if not, it's just up to you to say yes or no as being on the building committee, correct? Without the pileup. So we still have to have the pileup in place of some form. Is that correct?
Yes, because without that option,
You have no option.
you have no option.
You
You
have to
meet the
exactly
ordinance or
meet
you
what the
do not.
requirement is, or it's 100% up to.
So, but before that ordinance, I mean, the ordinance was in place before this, well, the past board that we were on, before we approved a dollar amount, it was always there. It just never was enforced.
Was there a dollar?
There was never a dollar amount. It was just never enforced.
So
People came and went,
would there
right?
be an issue if we just went back to that? Has Romeo really outdeveloped that?
So.
Does
we
the
just-
DDA want to pick up the cost to maintain all its parking lots?
But that's
Well,
not
I
what
think
the
that's a
money's
different
going for.
We're bringing you options to pick.
Yeah, no, and I'm asking, no, and I'm saying is that if we don't have something to maintain or grow,
Why
is the
now, though?
DDA willing then to?
So if the shortfall.
Take care of their own
let's-
parking.
So let's go back to that. The shortfall in the parking lot is a village situation. And I'm not, you guys can go, I don't know what those are, right? But if you're short, you need to reconvene. But it needs to be across everybody's board. Every
Yeah.
single business, every single person.
I would
that's
agree. To
within-
just
not the
penalize
new
the new businesses
Yeah.
is wrong.
That's-
I agree 100%.
So I want the parking lots to be great too. I don't know what the shortfall is. Is it $1,000? Is it $100,000? But whatever it is, you guys need to address that.
Well, and to be clear, it wouldn't just be new business, it was any business expanding outside of what they already used. So if you wanted to blow out a wall and add 50 more seats, then you had to account for that parking. Could still be an existing business.
But the
It
parking
was
would
just
be-
it was anything that put a larger burden on the parking,
but
no
is the
matter what
burden
it
on the
was.
Parking now, it is creating from the people that are here.
So if you
don't
have,
a parking issue without even adding anybody.
if you had the same restaurant, if you have a restaurant sell and you have the same restaurant come into that footprint and they're not expanding, they needed nothing. They created no more burden on the parking.
So is it about parking capacity or maintenance? Those are two separate things. And
Right.
if we can't talk about one or the other, is it maintenance then, or is
It's,
it capacity?
it's both.
Both.
But is it both? Where is to say that it's both? And is the capacity a failure of implementing your own parking codes? And is the tax base not enough to cover the parking lot maintenance?
Does it need to
These are
say
questions.
somewhere that it's both? That's what we're saying.
Well, up until this point, and I don't, that's what my first question was, is that written somewhere? Because up until today, it's always been put out there that this was in a fund for, in the event that there was property to purchase, to bring in more parking. That was the kind of the party line up until today, and now it's a case of, oh, and maintenance. So where did that and maintenance become part of the conversation?
Because if we're gonna look at this and we're gonna address it,
We're going to change
to
it.
your point, we could have that money sit in there forever, and there's never gonna be a property that comes up, and so we could have this money sitting in this fund. We could have $200,000, and until another house blows up, we're never gonna use it.
Right.
So then this allows a way that everybody gets their money's worth, so
So-
maintain the parking lots.
But and I hear what you're saying, but up until now, unless that's changed, is it, my question is it written anywhere that money would then be used to purchase or develop new parking? Or does it just say that money will be held for something? Is it
No,
definitive?
It was, I believe, I remember seeing it in minutes. When we put something, we put an intention to it.
Okay, so if, what you were saying now is there was the intention of new parking, essentially, if and when it became available. Now we're saying, let's reword this, and if we're gonna collect money, what potentially could we use that money for?
Well, we're looking at the whole
The whole thing.
problem.
Yeah, no, I agree. So then, I mean, that opens up almost more questions than it answers, because if the mindset was the pileup was there to address the parking issue, well, now it's not. Now the payment in lieu of parking is there to address a maintenance issue. And now the payment in lieu of parking is there to address, snow removal. Like, it's just changing what originally I think, the understanding of what the program
So
was.
if we just stuck with the limited parking, right, that's not available, and we didn't enforce it anymore, and we just let every building in town become a restaurant or a residence, and we ran out of parking, and we didn't enforce nothing, what are we gonna do then?
Well, but
And
that's,
we have no
that's
parking.
the
We have
thing,
people-
I don't think, what the studies are showing is that we do not have a we have a parking
We-
management problem.
2006, 2020, whenever it was, yeah, parking management. But how
Right.
many additional
But no-
restaurants are coming in, right? And how many additional businesses that require more than the one employee and maybe three additional parking spaces that now are requiring 10, right? So yes, we may not currently, as of the beginning of this year, have a parking issue, but how loose do we let this go before we do have a huge parking issue?
Well, I
Right,
agree.
it was
I
like
think-
Rochester Hills that built a wastewater treatment plant, I'm gonna go off to a little bit, and started selling capacity out the Ween Wing, before they even got fully operational, they had more capacity they could do, and it cost them millions to disassemble and get onto Detroit sewers, right, because they didn't have enough capacity,
But
right?
I
Do we
agree.
we just let it go and go rogue and say, hey,
Of course.
open up whatever business you want, come
Absolutely
in,
not. No,
let's
that would
get
be-
these businesses full,
Right.
but let's have no parking for anyone, and then we got people parking in front
Well,
of
again-
driveways and up and down every residential street.
One, it's
So
called,
even if you-
Melissa has her hand up.
If you did collect the money, and you still didn't have a place for them to park, you'd have money sitting there and no land to buy, and you'd still be in that situation,
I mean, until space comes up,
right?
and again, going back to it says payment in lieu of parking, it doesn't say payment in lieu of parking and maintenance. So
That's what I was getting at, is the actual wording says this fund should be used, or shall be used for purchasing land and developing consolidated parking spaces in the CBD district. So the actual wording is nothing about maintenance.
And I agree, and I think we need to,
Well, that's what
as a
we're
collective,
looking at the
throw
whole
the
problem now.
pileup, the term out the door right now.
Yeah,
We
the
put
original
We put a
intention.
temporary thing on the board to say, let's forget about this. And I don't think we need to keep beating up, you guys want money for pileup and pay in lieu of, and maintenance and this and that. What are we gonna do? Right, that's where we're at.
So.
What's the suggestions, where are we gonna do?
If that's what we're gonna do, us as the DDA, in our discussions, we're tasked with, let's bring some potential ideas. Number one idea that came out was, there's not gonna be a single idea. This is gonna take multiple ideas.
I respect that.
A single idea, nope, it's not gonna work, we all go home, tomorrow we're right where we are right now. Let's listen to all of the different ideas, of which we have a couple at least that we've brought, that we want your input,
Mhm.
and then maybe we refine it. If it's paid parking in some way through satellites, I'm not even sure, whatever it is, who's gonna enforce it? We don't know. It might, the police might not have to touch it. It might be that a company that enforces it for us. And all they do is enforce it for us, and we get a check in the mail.
I respect that.
might-
And
That's just one.
so,
Number
and
two,
if I can answer on that,
Number two,
Go ahead.
wayfinding. There's a lot of parking.
yes.
And if you walk around this village during the day, in the morning, afternoon, in the evening, there's all kinds of open spots. Nobody knows they're there, okay? Some of us do, some residents do. I've got people coming from out of town, they don't know that there's parking over here, over there. Simple signs, okay? 2 solutions, there you
Mhm.
go. 3, I know I've heard at least 2 more since then, that's all. And maybe it's a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Now we can bring in some more businesses that are willing to come in, fill some of these empty spots. And will there be a problem 20 years from now? There probably will be. But that doesn't mean it has to stifle today's progress. And hopefully in 20 years, we've got another possible solution.
So I would argue against, we've had paid parking here before, and other small communities have. Never lasts, never works, right? It's come, I think, twice
But I
since
don't
I've been alive.
But I don't think that's a reason to not look
Right.
into it and research it. and see
My,
what today's-
And you're only
okay,
talking
so
about Main Street.
if I could twist it, right, and say, we're gonna pay customers to come to your businesses, and you want them to pay to park. Charge an extra 10 cents a cup of coffee. Businesses pay X amount per spot needed every year, and move forward, right?
Great idea,
Put-
there's 3 ideas I've heard. That one, we're not gonna do, but that's okay.
Marty,
then
do you wanna
paid
get in
parking
here?
ain't gonna happen, we ain't
Okay,
gonna do
I've
it.
never heard it spoken of, so I don't know if I missed it somewhere or what. Have we ever thought about a parking structure?
We have.
Yes, we have talked
The
about
cost
that.
is probably,
When they were redoing the parking structure across from the old fire department.
The
Okay.
parking lot,
I
yes.
was thinking of the parking lot behind me, but I don't know.
Behind, you know, that's way too small.
Behind Youngers would probably be the most ideal.
The amount
I
of
think.
space you'd need, the ramping,
Yeah.
the things, it's.
The only
Big
physical
project.
play, well, two, if we didn't build a monstrosity of a gazebo, would have been there.
And then move the village park to Prospect.
and plus, what's the payback period on something like that?
And then behind Office Pub, Youngers,
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't
but
know
we
if
would
you
have then
think
had
that
to
I
acquire
had feet
additional
out there.
buildings then also.
Well, and how would we have paid for it?
Yeah.
Is that, is that where we would get these funds for?
That's the type of thing that maybe 20 years from now, these funds will be collected and there'll be enough sitting.
Mhm.
We can even entertain that.
But if the money was coming in, right, and we knew that, and it was, we had a pattern of money coming in from businesses, not customers, then we could go out for a bond, go out for a loan, and look at, okay, we can fund this as a village.
Right,
Well,
but
and
our
I think-
point is, it's not gonna take just one, in this case, all the businesses kicking in, whatever, it's $10,000, whatever, it's not, that's not gonna be enough. And it's just gonna deter those businesses, so that fund's never gonna grow anywhere, so it's a non-starter. So, that's fine, maybe there should be a little bit of a, we were using the term pilot program. There's a little bit of funds coming in from businesses that are existing or new businesses coming in. But then how about also, if it's paid parking, there's an idea there. Maybe your idea of the businesses, you know,
Could validate parking if
extra
they
fee
chose
is
to.
validate or whatever, and then they pay for that.
And it's not every single parking spot, so it's not every single customer. The suggestion was the prime spots. So as a resident, I like to walk, so I know I can park on North Bailey, I don't have to, it's my choice. If it's a blizzard out, and my choice, I wanna park there, then I'll pay to park there. I
Well-
pay at pretty much every other town I go to if I want the prime spot.
And I
A
know
lot
that
of
often you get like the first hour free, so if you're
Yeah.
running in for that quick coffee,
Right.
you're not paying for that.
I
If
like
you can
that.
run in for
Yeah.
your carryout, they
There's
give,
all
they
kinds of
comp that
coupons
first
and
hour.
discounts That you
And
can do in
You
these
can
apps.
set it up where residents are free, if you want. You can set it up during Beach Fest, there's no charge. That, it's all modular, where
Yeah, you
And
can
there's-
shut it
So,
off and
so
turn it on whenever.
based on these apps and people you guys have talked to, did they project a revenue, like
Yes.
amount? What did they say we would potentially, on Main Street and the premium parking, what that would cost, or what that would, well, yeah, cost, and then what we would gain from doing that?
So depending on how many spots we wanna do, if it's just Main Street, if you also choose to do around the park, if you decide that that's prime, that'll make a difference. So even if you said conservatively it was 50 spots that you had and there were 2 people parked there, throughout the day it's turned over twice and maybe it's $2, per time that they're parking there, it's upwards of $30,000 to $50,000 a year. You choose how much you charge somebody, that's just throwing a number out there. I mean, it could be more, it could be more during prime time. You can make all those decisions.
So-
And you could turn those apps into, like you can add the couponing, especially
Right.
for it. So you could have a shopper who maybe upon their 10th visit to Romeo is getting a free. So you can start turning it into a market. You can also have businesses that validate right off of it. So if someone decides that anyone who comes to my business that spends over $50, I'm validating parking, it starts engaging as well instead of a just put your quarter in and off you go.
So were the studies done then if we did residents?
They can walk into a business, scan a QR code and validate their parking.
You could do it timing based too, I'm assuming. You could
Right.
Probably do it at peak hours of night, change it during the day.
I think that's something we could start
Yeah.
with.
It's all with you
Yeah.
guys,
But
like,
it starts building funds as soon as it's implemented.
So
This-
businesses are willing to then just, hey, pay for my parking. If it was simply,
You don't
you
push
paid
employees
$50 a
out.
year
What they're
Yeah.
saying is it gets.
per
gets
spot
going.
needed, right? Let's say, I don't know, I'm looking at someone, you have a business that requires 10 spots, you have 3 of your own, you're paying for 7 at $50 a piece, $350, you pay $350 a year. into a fund. Every business in the DDA does so for parking that they don't have. What's the difference?
I think that they could go hand in hand. You
Yeah.
could still have businesses pay into a fund on the regular so that there's a steady income, and then not have, like, let's say the business is only here for a couple of years and then they leave. You're not losing that because the next business that comes in would pay that as well, and then while those are happening simultaneously, people that are coming and going off of Main Street are contributing, what is essentially just a couple of dollars in on their end, but it's collecting into a larger pool.
I think you have three different things that we're talking about, one of which has to stay in place, where developers can't do anything, and it's a stopgap for all development. You have to have a pylon, unless you're gonna change unless you're gonna go to the board and change everything. Because right now, that's the only mechanism to develop in here. So I think you need to decide, and we need to decide what that value is gonna be. So, and that value is never gonna be enough to maintain the parking lot.
No, and that can stay, that fund, specifically what that's paying into, that could stay just for purchase of parking. We can have multiple different,
But I
it doesn't
think-
all have to be
I think
one.
for your guys' benefit, I would change it to word it as maintenance, because you're never gonna have enough money to buy property. I know how much property is, and you're never gonna buy it, you're never gonna get enough.
But
Unless someone
we-
sells it
we
really good.
Purchased the Church Street property, the
That's-
village purchased, right? So if the
Yeah.
money comes in
When did
to
you-
offset that cost,
When did you buy that?
a few years ago, 3 years ago?
What,
Longer than that, like 5.
Like,
oh,
No,
5
Church
years?
Street?
Like around 2012?
where are we?
No, Church Street was purchased after I.
4 to
I got
5.
here in 2020.
4 to
4 or 5 years
4 to
ago.
5?
Well, you wouldn't have bought it today, put it that way. I would outbid you all day. and night. My point is, everybody's gonna do that. You're never gonna compete with developers. So my point is, don't try to. Don't use that money for that. Use it for what you need it for, is for maintenance. Put it towards something you can actually quantify.
Until parking becomes an issue, then we don't have money to acquire something when it becomes available.
There's no fix for that. Are you gonna take these residents that are in?
So then
1,800
let's leave it at
houses?
10.5 and not let the businesses come in that don't need more than 2 spots. Right? Because if we're gonna create a parking issue, why are we just saying, hey, fuck it, let's go?
But I don't think we have a parking issue. It goes back to what we talked about. We have a parking,
Right now, right now,
management issue.
right now, but when will it become an issie?
There's like 5 developable pieces right now. It's not that much. If you had a
Not
coffee
that
shop, how
much,
many
not that
people-
much, 5.
3?
I mean,
5?
how many parking spaces are we talking with 5 developable and how many empty spots
20?
are out there?
I have 20 in one lot in Romeo. I mean, I just feel like we're discussing 3. I think you guys are losing a ton of money without the parking meters. That's on you guys.
But, Paul, okay,
I
so
don't-
let them keep let's leave the pilot to be just for buying property. Then
That's
just
fine.
sit on
It
the
just
money.
really limits
I
you guys.
mean,
I wouldn't do that.
That's, sit
All
on
I'm
the
saying
money.
is it doesn't have to all be in one pot. If it was chosen to be separated, it can
But
do that.
Just like was just said a few minutes ago, with the idea of a parking structure, we couldn't think of a spot unless a house blows up. I mean, that's our option at this point.
I know, and nobody but that's not what we're hoping for.
To say we're gonna put this money in this thing because we're gonna have a parking issue in the future, I mean, unless we have a tragedy, there's not gonna be property to purchase to put in said parking lot.
Okay, so then we have to then limit the parking that's available.
No,
Right?
you
You have to plan,
manage-
you don't plan for today, you plan for the future.
Right, but you
Right?
manage the
So
parking
if
that
we
you have.
open this up and everyone comes and we have huge amounts of customers that are jamming up Main Street, jamming up the side streets, right? If that's the
I
goal.
think it will take care of
But
itself.
you don't have customers. Right now, you have Shana Roofing taking up all the spaces along, what's it, Raw? You have.
Great,
all
and how many parking spots does he have available for him, right? If he's paying, or they're paying for every parking that they don't have
Right.
available for themselves, if they're paying for those spots,
But I don't think he.
things will change.
But he's never
He
gonna
never
pay for
paid.
those spots because you guys
He
didn't enforce
doesn't,
it.
but if it's every business is paying, not new businesses, every business.
I think
pays.
you're talking about another thing that would
I don't
probably
think
make
there's
Clark
sense.
said we can't go back.
I don't
Yet
think that
we
there's.
can't do
100%, you
that are
change your parking
grandfathered
district,
that way.
100%, you
I
can
don't
change
think we
it.
have enough spots to sell to everybody.
I'm not telling selling anything.
No, there's.
You pay X amount per spot needed that you don't have available for yourself.
Yes, some spots are counted, Lord knows, 5 times, 8 times
times, it
over.
doesn't
It's
matter.
not like
You pay
each
for that.
single.
It doesn't fix. the
then
problem that employees are still parking in the prime spots.
Right.
So they
do you
could
think
pay
if a
all-
business is paying for those spots, they're not gonna then start telling their employees, hey, park down the street, go park over at Church Street, go park over at North Bailey?
But they're
They're
not
definitely
getting
gonna
a
be
spot.
paying so that their customers, that they're paying to have a spot available for, right? I'm surprised every business doesn't do
But
that.
they're not paying for
Already.
a spot. There is no dedicated spot. If I own a business next to John and I tell my employees, I had to pay 10,500 for this spot, don't park
Forget
here.
the 10,500. We've
I
already
understand
said that's
now. I'm saying,
obnoxious.
whatever I have
Parking
to
is
pay.
transparent too, it moves throughout the day. You don't
It
have one
does.
spot where you're parking your car.
It
You go
does.
eat, you leave, the people might live in the apartment, they might be there at night, they're usually not there all day.
But
This is how
until
it's-
someone gets a
it's
sign
not
that says degree a
designated.
spot, there's nothing saying anyone's not gonna park there. That's where the wayfind, we have a program with the building owners, the businesses that say, here's maybe there's some sort of incentive to get them to get their employees to park over in a free parking lot. You know, maybe that can be created. And then we keep, where you have paid parking in prime spots, we keep Shaner Roofing either moving or paying. They wanna pay $2 every hour for the day for 12 trucks.
The other
Right.
argument then would be, right, so I know these studies were done, right? And most of them, every single one I saw included your guys' parking as public parking, which is not,
Yeah, everybody
right?
does that, right?
So if we eliminate everything behind the bank to the orthodontist in that one way, and then we eliminate everything in the last two rows behind the office pub, up against, Rawls, right? You eliminate all those parking, and you say those are all private, right? Because we're gonna start charging private parking, right? We don't have to pay for our spots, these are private, don't park here. Then do we have a parking issue?
Well, so let me
Because you
ask
just
this.
eliminated a lot of parking, that
Right.
it's
So-
currently shown as public,
But if you're in agreement.
which is not.
If you're in agreement that the 10,500 is too big of a number, we throw it out, right?
Throw it out.
We're all in agreement there. So then what's your suggestion?
The study I have has it as private
But
parking.
can-
I
I'd
think
like to
this
hear a
right here
suggestion.
says-
What is
Says
the
private.
suggestion?
What's your suggestion then?
I think this
We
shows them
brought
all as
three.
public,
What
right
does
here,
the
doesn't
village
it?
council
No,
have
it's
as a
red.
suggestion?
The red ones are private. That, here, no.
Yep, but, so behind the
Other
building,
than
but you go to
20 years in
the,
the
you go to the lot, right? I'll get to you, right? Right?
These ones right here. You talking about where my
No,
property's
I'm
at?
just saying, I'm not ignoring you.
You talking about locks? That's red.
Block T, what is block T?
Block T is, oh, that's, I mean, behind that's all public, yeah.
No, it is not.
Well, that
The
looks,
last two rows are not,
Yeah, no, those go
Public.
with your building that you bought.
those are with your,
there's a square there.
concern.
It doesn't just go with mine, it goes with all the people.
with all the
Yeah.
people that are in that consortium or whatever it's labeled as.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so those
But I
are,
think we have an agreement with the
No.
city somewhere that is main, I don't know, that, that's.
it's an unwritten, undisclosed, whatever,
Yeah.
that could be eliminated at any point,
So
right?
can we at least agree on a pilot fee that is reasonable, so that we just don't have everybody stop doing anything?
Well, at the moment, it's $100.
Till October.
Till October 14th.
But we
Yeah.
can't then,
So
We
I would,
can't
I would
back-
argue that payment in lieu of almost should just be gone, right? If every business pays for the parking they don't have at a very minimal rate yearly.
that could be an option, that would, I don't know, what would that cost be? I don't, what is other, what's a fair, I don't know.
I'm saying.
Oh, say it's 50
I mean, we'd
bucks,
have
I
to
don't know,
do some- we'd have to
$25, and you
actually
need 5
do some math.
spaces, so that's whatever, and,
Yeah, I mean,
I
that
don't
would
know.
be. that would be up to you
$50, $100
guys.
per spot, whatever that is. You
That'd
need
be a
10
lot of
spots, that's like,
calculations and businesses and everybody mad. I would think that that would probably be real big.
then there's no
And
paid
I'm all-
parking,
I'm
we're
all
not
right
paying
with
for apps, we're not paying for maintenance, we don't have the police do anything additional,
Right.
which is all at a cost, right?
But that
Police
one had
monitoring is
payments gonna be
cost,
what?
right? Paying for an app, paying for parking, it's
What
all
they're
at
saying is
cost,
it'd be
right?
a yearly, so say you need 4 spots,
At $100 a spot.
you would get basically a tax bill. It'd be probably part of your taxes, to be honest, somehow figured in there. as a
like an
proration,
assessment, I don't know.
That you owe $200. So it doesn't matter if Jimmy's business is there or Johnny's business, it's always gonna be the same. Doesn't matter if new developer comes in or this guy over there, it's whatever.
Occupancy would change, right? Pay, but if you want an
Not a bad
office,
idea.
you want a restaurant, you want this, you want that,
I think that's probably the fairest idea
Makes sense.
across the board.
Yeah.
The problem is if you get one developer that's trying to do everything, that's why the guys don't do anything, including me. That's why everything sits, 'cause I don't know, I'm not gonna pay for everything. But if you did it like where it's just, I need 10 spots, well, then.
That's okay, I like
10
using
spots,
your
you pay
parking.
$1,000 a year, done.
You do
So,
nothing.
Like the water bill does, you could do it quarterly, you could do it yearly, you could do
Yeah.
whatever,
Well,
just, that's your part.
In
Yeah.
Washington, for example, I use their sewer, right? So on my tax bill, there's a proration for using their sewer system.
So
What I have, it's based on my acreage I have, so there's a
Yeah.
quantifiable calculation.
Yeah.
So I know what they're charging me, because I have this many acres here. So you would do it per spot, I don't know how you put that
So
up.
maybe,
What
I
I think-
suggested earlier, and maybe I was, the pileup, I think, just disappeared.
I
Right?
think that
You, whatever business it is, you pay for a set amount for spots you need that you
this
don't
fixes-
have.
that fixes the problem forever, really.
Can I-
It does.
well, Can I ask a question? Nolan, Zach, Nate, can I hear your thoughts on
I'm sorry,
any
I
of the
talk a lot.
suggestions that we brought out?
I'm just trying not to interject
I
too
like-
much.
I like your suggestions, for sure. I think we should start on those to help, and hopefully people start to get used to that and know not to park in the prime spots. I'm a big advocate of meters. I know people hate them, but I think they
Well,
serve their
this would
purpose.
be a meter sitting there.
So just a little history. When I was a kid, Romeo was rocking, man. We had a grocery store, we had sporting goods stores, we had clothing stores. Our sidewalk sales, you look down the street, on Main Street, it was like Peach Festival going on. It was crazy. And then in 1976, Lakeside Mall came. Speaking of Lakeside, right? And then everybody goes to the mall. And then we took the meters down because now we're like, no, come. And we were dead. The town was dead. It was a lull during that time. And thank God Lakeside's closed and we still need more parking, so that's a good thing. That's why I'm an advocate of meters.
Well, and I think cities goes, like everything goes through different times. There's times that it works, and there's times that it doesn't. To say what worked in the 70s is gonna have to work all the way up to 2024, no, there's different things happening at different.
Well, the meters just themselves looks different, it's an
not
app,
immediate, right,
it's a
yeah.
thing.
But I think that can go in tandem with what Justin was talking about. Those are two separate items probably, right?
So I was thinking to, price, like you were saying, what would you do? I think you start at the other end and we go, what's the cost? We say, what does it cost to maintain? What is our cost to redo? What's the cost to stripe, snow, salt, the thing? And then we can take that and start building
Well, and I
backwards.
think you really need to know what your shortfall is so you can really sell it, that it is a thing, that you have a shortfall. If it's, I mean, I don't know those numbers.
You can see it.
You guys can see
You
it,
can see
right?
the, like,
People are
the,
gonna
dis-
ask you, why are you charging me this? You
Yeah.
can justify it. We have a
Yeah.
shortfall. You're getting a product that you're not paying for. And we have to pay for it. So everybody has to.
and that's why it's
What-
not
whatever
maintained.
your life-
That's why it's falling apart. That's why the mulch isn't there.
Yeah.
That's why you have your weeds right now. Like, it's,
So if you're like $100,000 shortfall, then divide that by
That's how we
everybody's
make it-
parking needs, I guess.
But I
You
think it's important.
Look at every
too.
business, every occupancy, square footage, and figure out how many spots people are gonna be paying for, and that's your number.
And is that gonna be everybody? I mean, are we talking upstairs, downstairs? Are we talking
I was just
residential?
gonna
Well, it
suggest
would
maybe
be-
if
How
they're
is that
upstairs
gonna be
office,
So,
maybe
we'll
they
just say
don't pay, and that
Paramount,
way it keeps
right?
everybody
He's got
else
multiple
out.
They gotta
tenants.
take a parking spot.
Right? Whatever Paramount has in the building he owns,
yeah, some
He
people do
pays.
have their own parking.
if
For
it's
instance,
occupied or not. he's
FAMS
paying
has
for
their
that
own
spot.
parking. FAMS
Right,
might
so-
not need anything, so
if I
they
have
are
a- If I
contained.
have a building, and I have a retail on the first floor, and the numbers deem that I need 10 spots,
Mm-hmm.
and I've got 2 apartments upstairs, are those renters
That
paying
need-
this as well?
Probably how.
The building owner,
The building owners?
the business owner, the building
And they
owner,
can build it into their rent.
Right,
as-
exactly,
Yep.
Then it would depend on what business is in their spot.
yeah. If it's a
Next year,
residential,
that's gonna change.
But it would be an
Like,
occupancy
you-
thing. You only allow certain businesses in certain buildings. You can't have residential on a first floor.
supposed to.
Right, but if
Right,
it's a
yes.
coffee shop and then next year it changes to a quilt store.
Well, maybe that's something they have to.
It's
apply
different
for.
use, it's a different amount of parking requirement.
and then
So
Yes.
every
the
year
building
you're gonna
owner
have to go through
Yeah,
would
that
it.
would
be
just
paying
be
that
over for
amount.
you guys, right? But
And
that
who's
would
gonna run
probably
that
have to
program?
happen.
That's gonna be a hefty program.
The DDA.
So,
So what
really?
you're saying, I would say, is two things about it. Number one, if that's what is put together, it's still just, I believe, single prop. We need multiple ones. So
Yeah, we still
don't
should have-
just
It
discount
could supplement
everything
that
and come
cost
up
to
with
keep it
one.
down.
Number two is,
Yeah.
you better really run that through legal, because if you're gonna start going backwards to existing businesses, walking in the door and saying, here's what you owe, you better look at legal, because,
But I don't think businesses in general are grandfathered. You guys can
No.
adjust taxes based on value. Whatever else.
So Nolan, Zach, I didn't get to hear your thoughts. I'd like to hear them.
I mean, obviously, we have a problem with the usage of the side lots. I mean, the one behind
Four Corners is hardly ever really used, especially during peak business hours. It does, but not to its expectancy. Right, but that's how it should be, and so, all, we're expecting all the workers to try to park on the streets, so signage helps a lot. Like you said, it's multiple prongs, John. The parking app has some tech issues that might cause some problems for people who are older. I like the idea of people of
Thank you.
age.
I like your proposal, I
but
like it.
I think it's a good idea because we're trying to draw we're trying to draw the parking off of Main Street, away from the park. We're trying to use those side lots and use the streets where there's already naturally free parking. So signage would be great, signage would help. I think that's a big addition. Another thing, whether we raise funds through PILOP or through a percentage, based off of how many spots you don't have, there seems to be this understanding that we have to be able to purchase one entire parking lot and develop it just based off those costs. Those costs are just there to offset, to help us a little bit. We still have capital outlay funds. We have other funds that go towards parking, go towards streets. There shouldn't be an expectation to solely pay for one parking lot just based off the collection that we get from downtown businesses for the lack of parking that they have. I mean, there should be a contribution there, but the expectation to pay for the whole thing is
Well, the
crazy.
same as it is right now, we're saying the opposite of, we can't expect the taxpayers, the residents to fully fund it.
Right.
It's a give and a take, both. I agree, I see
But
what you're
isn't
saying.
realistic, I think those funds would be better allocated for maintenance.
Probably.
Realistically, buying property for a parking lot is probably slow.
Yeah, you have to wait for a house to blow up. So to maintain and that's the best
So-
case.
And I
Yeah.
would
Yeah, I mean,
wonder,
there's tons of.
And put towards a possible future parking structure.
but would that future parking structure, because have to be, do we have to then locate it in the CBB or in the DDA district?
That's what it says right now in the ordinance, is that anything that would be purchased with those funds.
That's
would
with the
be in
pilot,
the
yes.
DDA.
Right. So
Well,
we're
because
gonna-
it needs to be
eliminate the
close enough to
bylaw.
what it's gonna serve. Yeah, I mean, you don't wanna put it up at green space.
No, I agree, but I'm just saying we've
That'd be
even
too
Might be a
far.
good spot.
made smaller,
Mhm.
our house blowing up.
I think
Yeah.
I think we're
Right.
leaps and bounds away
Maintenance
from being
is-
a parking structure.
I just wanna ask, is
Yeah.
waiting for a house to blow up another way of saying waiting for hell to freeze over?
No, it's a joke because the house that blew up next to the post office.
That's all, how we got
It's
it.
more of a joke.
What's the price of that car wash? Anybody, have you guys looked into it? The one on Bailey Street?
On Bailey,
Yeah,
it's behind the
Um,
new.
I
that's
actually had it
just
in
down
my-
the street
I
from
know
you.
about it, yeah.
And that's the other thing, because parking has been available.
We're a bidding war right now.
Where Bluebird currently is in the house, that was available, that was for sale. That came with 23 parking spaces, and nobody moved on it, and that was recently.
Yeah, the inside of that was it was.
But still, so
Yeah, it could be.
there was 23 usable parking spaces, and neither the village, nor the DDA, nor anybody took advantage of the available parking.
Well, we also had no funds set aside.
Well, a lot of the problem is apathy too, because our church lets people park if they want, anytime. Some people do,
And that's,
but people don't wanna, people wanna park right where they gotta go in.
but that's where we partner with the church when they find.
Don't
What if you
make a
partner with
donation
private businesses? Like I
to the
have,
church.
I have a couple
parking
lots I would
spots.
lease out to you guys right now.
That's a good idea.
I have the one right across from the old dealership that's sitting there idle. It needs a couple things, the asphalt in the one spot will probably need to be filled, but I would lease that entire lot to you guys right now. I have no problem with that. I'm just saying, you could also ask
Yeah.
private donors that would be like, hey, after hours, nobody parks here. You guys, you guys can have these spots, I'm just throwing it out.
Some of them
there.
already do that too.
Is that over off Lafayette Street?
Yeah.
Have we talked to the church at all to see if we could make a donation or?
I think our church has always been open to allowing people to park there. If we bring up paying to park there, there's a lot of members that are just really adamantly against that, because
I
they've
don't know,
never
I
have.
would argue that, because I believe the church called and had complaints recently about events that were happening on a weekend, and your church was overrun and they didn't have parking available.
Is our church or Abbey?
Your church, because of maybe another church.
The Lions are also putting a parking lot on the corner, right, where they had,
Yes,
the whole.
the empty lots.
Yeah, that's gonna be a thing too.
What's nice too about
That'll be a
the,
big parking lot too.
app program is that will also, we can build it where it has all parking identified. So you're gonna see, where's the free parking, where's a partnership with the church, all those things can then be identified. So, you know, and we could, you know, geotag it, so it pops up as soon as you pull into Romeo, and now you can download the app. And, I mean, there's a lot that we can do, just to help manage what we've got going on.
My biggest issue with the paid parking,
Yeah.
not that I'm 100% against, would be residents, right? And if we're not gonna charge residents for parking that they're already paying for, right? The taxes go in to maintain, they've already been putting in. Why do we wanna charge residents?
Well, I don't
Which,
think
I don't
we
know
are.
what percentage of your businesses are current residents, but if you took that out of there,
Is there-
what,
Well, two things on that. First,
I
That would be kinda cool.
said that a couple times.
there's,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, number one, there is still free parking in Romeo for a resident, so I could either choose to pay and be right on Prime, or I could go to a free parking spot, or we could build in, it's a discount on for Prime parking for residents,
Or you offer, I know there's places where you offer monthly subscriptions, so for $20, I can park anywhere at any
Yeah.
time and not have to
Free
deal
parking,
with
yes.
everyday, you know, whatever.
There's a lot of options if we are open to looking at them and
But
exploring.
what's our biggest problem right now? Can we just like start from the beginning here and say, I see.
What do you need
we're
us to
all
do?
over the place here. What is, right now, what is the biggest parking issue right now today?
you tell
The
us.
number
I
one.
think
You
it's
tell us, you're a business owner.
I can tell you.
What,
in my-
if
in
you
my
didn't have your
small-
own parking, right?
I have my own parking.
I know,
lot,
you have plenty, you have a lot of parking.
So, I'm fine there, but for what for what I personally see, I see that Main Street gets abused with many different things. Contractors come in, they're working on a, project, they leave it there all day. That is what I see is the misuse of Main Street. Now, I don't know about the other ones, because again, I don't see that, but from what I see in my little world when I look outside, I love the fact that people pull up, they run across the street, they run here, they run there. A lot of them don't stay long, but then there are those that do abuse it. Right now, we can't say anything because of what's going on everywhere else, we get that. But that's just what I see, but what is it for everyone else? What is the biggest problem right now that we could probably focus on that to rectify? Would it be asking the business owners to have make sure their employees park further away, whether it's off Church Street or if it's behind where Marty is? Or
That's the biggest problem I see is employees and business owners wanting to park right there.
I have it. Why are you parking right here on a rainy day?
No, but now Kathy, if your employee had to pay to park there,
They wouldn't park.
they wouldn't park
Right.
there, right? They're gonna go
I
to
know
the
they
employee
wouldn't.
parking.
I can
It's-
talk to them
it's-
till I'm blue in the face,
Yeah.
but
If you put a meter out
if
there.
I tell them, why are you parked there? Park back over here at the last spot, not the first spot. But if they had to pay for it, I guarantee you, those
Right.
little butts would be unloading their stuff and they would be parking.
So that sounds like an employer-employee issue, right? 100%. If, as a business owner, you had a policy in place that
I
said,
have a policy.
you do
in
not
place.
park here.
Right,
But that only affects she can only control the ones that she
what I
owns.
have.
So what do you do with the chain
So
of
what do
roofing?
we do with the
That's village parking.
businesses that
We
have
can't.
to use the
Exactly,
parking?
so if Shane
not
was paying for
enforceable,
those
yeah.
spots, then he uses them, if he wants to.
But we're already saying there's not enough spots. So how, even if we, whatever sort of payment program's in place, unless he's gonna be able to put Shaner roofing signs on each of those spots.
I respect what you're saying. So maybe it's a tiered program, right? If you don't have a retail business that requires customers in and out on a daily basis, you pay a fee. Your second floor, third floor, you have just employees, you're paying a premium for your business, right? Maybe that's a tiered program then.
But you're still not getting a spot to park in.
But if Shaner Roofing's willing to pay $1,000 per spot for his employees, per spot needed, based on square footage, and I'm just saying Shaner because it was brought up,
Sure,
I'm saying
yeah.
anyone, then
Does he just-
you're not a retail business that doesn't have customers in and out.
But we're not solving that potential future parking issue. I mean, that's not, now we're back to two different issues.
Does Church
But if
Street
you're-
parking get used? That's my question.
It's
I
the
don't-
parking lot for the post office employees.
It's always busy. It's
Yeah.
always used.
Okay, so it does get used.
Oh.
Mostly for the employees.
But mostly for the-
Yeah,
okay.
post office.
That's why I like parking meters,
Yeah,
because,
They could go
And I-
tandem in reviewing your parking requirements too, and you can say, you know, what do we want to bring to town? Maybe we re-review it a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, residents are good for a village, so, you know, make sure that's in line. It seems like restaurants after hours is a big deal. Offices, I don't know if offices are a big thing anymore, you're not gonna probably see a lot of office space.
So
But
what can
office-
we do, what can we, I'm sorry, what can we do tonight? Or can we make
Dis-
motions
discuss.
tonight? Can we?
I don't think there's gonna be a result
I
tonight.
mean, what is our next step? So we have lots of conversation, what can I do now?
I think we need to lock in the pilot for a longer period of time, so we don't deter people from developing without going backwards. So you can't retroact that. So you can't say, we're gonna do $1 today, and then if we decide something in October, it's $15,000 a spot, you're gonna pay that. Because then again, we're just gonna sit idle again. So I
I
think that,
respect that.
yeah.
I don't think we
like
need,
your
I don't think
idea
we
a
need to
lot.
make a decision on that tonight,
I
personally.
would just like.
I don't, I mean, we've,
You would what?
Like
per-
next steps, what can we do?
per the
now?
motion,
Can
we have till
we-
October.
Can
I
we
think
reach
that's what
out
you're
to
saying.
that company that you
In 2
talked
months.
about that has the app
Can I
parking and
ask
see if
that
they
we
can
could
do
use that
an
motion
analysis
till
for
October
Romeo
is
based
not
on the Main
retro-
Street
They
spots?
have it
At
on
least,
back on their
'cause
website.
that has
You can
really
type
put a
in
stopgap
what
on
you want and
any of
figure it
that.
out.
Well, this
I
old
think we
guy's
made it
kind of-
$100. I'm sorry, we got all the
Okay.
conversations
I
going.
like that, but I think,
So I
you
need
know,
to see something.
we need to think about the seniors.
ID
Romeo
means the
has
older
a lot
guy.
of Seniors, and they all know how to use the meters, no matter how old.
oh yeah, they're social savvy.
Yeah, I like that.
But maybe
Just an idea.
if we could have a presentation on the app, and could we be maybe on the next village council meeting to make a presentation, to bring it to you, to see if we have your joint buy-in?
What's the company called?
Parking box?
Would it make more sense
Parking
to
lot.
separate these
Parking
issues?
Yes.
Because I feel like these issues are getting crossed up and we're not gonna get anything accomplished. Like maybe the parking issue is one thing and the parking meter thing is another thing.
Mm-hmm.
Because one, I think, is beneficial for the village, and you guys really gotta decide if that's the route you wanna go. The other is beneficial for the DDA and the development of the village.
Well, my understanding is that you guys are saying the parking meters, paid parking is going to help alleviate the prime parking issue,
Sure.
right? So is it one and the same?
I think it's one and the same,
It's-
truly. I think they go together.
So how do
I
you
think
separate
there's
them when you're
multiple-
saying that's gonna leave the parking in the prime
I think
spots?
there's multiple
right?
solutions that can help accomplish all of the things, but I think they directly tie into each other.
I mean, and I think the biggest thing we really have to do, which is not that big of a problem when you break it down, is we've got to stop 8-hour shift parking in
Right.
prime spots.
Right.
We need to push those people
That's
that are
the
parking there for 8 hours, whether it be an upstairs business, and I'm working 9 to 5 today because I'm an accountant, and I pull up and I leave my car there for 8 hours and I go upstairs, that's still a spot that's being absorbed for a full shift. We need to move all of those long-term, I'm here for the day because I work here, off of Main Street, off of around the park, and free that up for the people that are gonna spend an hour and run through your shop, or I'm gonna grab dinner, and that's gonna be, 45 minutes.
So,
Those that were rotating.
So if we
over-
So I don't
change the 2-hour parking from daytime hours, right, let's just say daytime, no, because then we're going to a restaurant. I think we just need to
So
enforce the
here-
2-hour parking there.
here's the motion that I think
Enforce
though,
it. You just said it's not enforceable.
real quick.
You know-
I don't know that we're gonna have an answer for this
Yeah,
by October, nor would we wanna rush to get a bad answer, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what I'm saying is, why don't you take the pilot number to a reasonable amount, push that to a year, and nothing retroactive backwards, and then you guys figure out how we're gonna make it work.
I'll guarantee nothing's gonna be retroactive backwards,
Well, I think
right?
if you read, I believe the motion, it did say that, but I could be wrong. So I think we need
We'll
to,
double check that, but in October,
Yeah,
when it
that's
comes
not
up,
the,
we can address that then. But
like
I
Danielle's-
think to stop kicking the can down the road, I think like President Poznanski said, that's the reason it's October. Let's come together, let's resolve this and
Danielle, I
move
like,
on, right? If we keep
I like
kicking
your
it
idea
down.
of a presentation.
Paul, it's
So
not really
we
my
can
area of
adopt this.
expertise. What do you suggest as a pilot price that's fair, it doesn't deter, but it still gives us, at least we're building something? I mean, $100 is something, but is there something more specific that,
I would say probably with the village, where the village is at, and the type of village it is, it's not, I'm not gonna say it's an never wanna compare it to other villages, so I'm not gonna do that, but I would say probably $1,000 would be fair, just to get it off something.
Mm-hmm.
You still think that's high? I mean,
That's what.
Per spot?
what's that?
Isn't that what Rochester says, is $1,000?
Rochester, I believe, is $1,000. 1,500, I think you said at the last meeting.
No, it's pretty low. I'd have to go back and look at my notes.
They
It was
also do
pretty
a lot
low.
of other-
Well,
they
they
do a lot of
have
other figures.
multiple approaches, as like John
But,
said.
Yeah, I mean, I just think if someone wants to open a business and it's deemed that they need 15 spots, we're talking 15 grand. Again, what am I getting for it?
If it-
Nothing.
Yeah, but if it, honestly, so my development, just in particular, if I needed 10 spots on an $8 million development, it's probably not the end of the world.
But I'm talking the.
No, but hear me out, but if you're a small coffee shop, you might need 2.
But if you're,
You're not gonna need 18.
No, but if you're a restaurant, you could need 10,
I guess,
and I'm not.
the restaurant thing, I don't know how that ever's gonna work out. I don't know how
Well, whatever,
restaurants.
even if you're.
If you wanna start a restaurant in the village, I don't know, but you never, the requirements are.
Even if you're a retail shop, let's just say
Yeah.
it's 10, it's not an $8 million development, I'm paying $1,500 a month for rent.
Yeah,
So it's different for a small business.
right.
If you want to get to where you are having your businesses, pay a fee like this in those numbers, you solve your parking problem because you won't need any, there won't be any customers, because there won't be any businesses, so you got all the parking you need.
Yeah.
So you're focused on the wrong area to try to generate funds for parking. We're trying to bring you different, multiple solutions to generate those funds. So you right now have, what, $100, I think, for this pile-up? I'm told, and I'm not aware of it, there needs to be something, otherwise you have to abide by the ordinance. So you wanna give the business the option to pay $1, $50, $100, something.
Well, you wanna get the
But
developer,
when you start
planning
talking,
commission an option to allow it, that's the.
Keep going,
when
Joe.
you start talking about a coffee shop paying 10, 15, 20 a year, there won't be a coffee shop, so there's your parking. You solved the parking issue. There also won't be customers. I don't think you're gonna have a diner, I don't think you're gonna have a coffee shop, I mean, if you're gonna,
You might have a lot of realtors.
that's great.
But still, it all circles, right? So you would rather put the cost on the customer to initially park,
That's,
right?
which will,
So they're paying for it, right? They're still coming to your shop, right? So you're saying, I want you to pay out here and not to me to pay for your parking, right? But then you're saying, you can come in and validate it. Maybe I wanna pay for you, but not you, right? So how does that work? I just don't understand, right?
And I
The
would
money's
say-
coming somewhere. If someone's gonna come downtown and pay to park, or the business is paying to park, and the business is then in turn charging the customers for that, it's all the same, right? You're asking them to pay one way or another.
You're asking thousands of people to pay $2 here or there versus the maybe
10
30
businesses.
businesses downtown to pay what?
I hope there's more than 30.
So-
But still, you take $1,000 and divide it by your, how many thousands of customers that you're talking about, what does that come out to as a cost increase in your product that you're selling or you're providing?
But then you're forced, as me as a walker, I have to pay for this parking anyways, even though I walked up here, I
I
didn't
rode
want
my
to sit.
bike down.
Okay, so if you don't live in a village that has municipal parking, what does that business do? Right? It buys a property, it develops a lot, and it charges you accordingly. Anywhere else you go outside of municipality, it's the same thing. Right? You have a standalone business that someone's bought and paid for, property that they own, you're paying for it in the long run, right? The customer's paying.
That's not what we are.
One time.
Yeah, one time you go there, and then if you wanna go back, you go
The
back.
business buys that property one time, and then they have
Yeah.
those spots. They're not buying those spots every year.
But they maintain them, don't they?
But
Big
they
difference
buy
in
it
price.
once.
But they still
They're not-
maintain it, they pay to light it, they pay for lighting, they pay for electric bills, they pay for continually, so they're continually paying for that spot.
Yes, but
for the
Justin,
life of
where
that-
it says
that
this
lot.
parking spot is for, you know, doctor's office, whatever business. There's no spots for.
That's what I'm saying,
this
10,500
office is for-
outrageous amounts are crazy, right? It all, the customer's ultimately always paying, right? Are they paying for, at the meter, or are they paying for it at their tap? or if they go in to render a service. It's all getting paid for. I just think telling an individual that is coming to the village, you need to pay for these parking, I just don't like, I don't like the
You know,
concept.
it's like an acceptable thing, like I know if I'm gonna go downtown, I'm gonna pay parking. I have an app that I can use in multiple states to
Right.
You pay for parking everywhere.
because it's
You
not.
don't though, Danielle, you don't. I've heard that several times. Please, tell me anywhere around here you pay for parking. I haven't paid for parking in a year and a half. I can guarantee that, unless I'm going to Royal
I
Oak.
paid for parking on Tuesday at Mount Clemens.
I pay for parking in Mount Clemens, Rochester,
Pay for
Royal
parking
Oak,
in Birmingham.
Birmingham.
Birmingham,
Downtown Utica has
I mean,
free
they
parking.
literally
So-
put it on.
Is
Fort Huron's
is
another one.
Okay, but anyways,
The idea
what are
of
our
meters-
ideas? So far, I have parking app.
Right?
What are our,
Utica's downtown Utica's.
but is the app same, or are we talking, is that the same thing? Are we saying the same thing when we say app and?
The app should be in place of meters. I get what she's saying. She was wanting meters for like universal access, but then you.
Yeah,
have
the
to pay
cost of
for
that
meters.
infrastructure versus your app,
Yeah, the app
to
is-
see if this is or isn't going to actually benefit, that, yeah.
So, for my understanding only, at least, is the idea of an app gonna completely offset any collection from pile op or parking spaces that are business related, or is that gonna be in addition to?
It
Could.
It could, but that
So-
was why my question in the beginning,
Yeah.
what is the goal?
So-
What are we trying to accomplish? We
I-
trying to
yeah.
get a big thing of money to do what with?
Or are we just trying to manage the parking? If we're just trying to manage parking,
Mm-hmm.
then the app will do that. If we're saying we wanna manage parking and we wanna make money to go buy a parking lot, then yeah, we probably need to have a secondary source of
Yeah.
income.
Well, I think
So
it,
what's the end game?
I like the app, but it scares me because there's a lot of people that just, they have flip phones.
You can have a spot in there that says if you're, you know,
Yeah,
if you have handicap, whatever, you don't have to pay. You're not,
there's,
there's
yeah.
so much technology in it that it's incredible.
So
So
what's
I
our
think the
other
answer-
ideas?
I think the answer can rely from two sources. The only problem I see with the app is that it does manage our parking. It does a very good job of dispersing the parking. We get to collect revenue from it, but that still doesn't prevent a restaurant or development that needs 15 spots. We still have to have something in place for them in addition to it. So I think the answer can be both.
Right.
We can,
Well, let's do it in stages. Let's start from the first, take care of that, which will hopefully help the Main Street and whatnot around there. Then what's the next step? Let's focus on the first step, let's make it the easiest one, and then go to the next step, and then looking at it through developers' eyes, look at it through business people's eyes, look at it through
Residents.
residents' eyes, and let's just take it in steps, let's accomplish something.
Yeah.
I agree.
And let's
So-
focus on one thing, let's accomplish that at the same time. Great open discussion, I've personally learned quite a bit with this. But I see it all, but let's just start.
Yeah, I think this conversation is why this packet is here and why nothing's ever done. So what are our,
so,
parking app is an idea, what are the ideas?
So we have parking app, we have wayfinding.
We've
Wayfinding,
already started on
Yeah.
because
yes.
new banners that we just ordered have parking.
And the EV
public
tip
parking.
has permanent signage idea, movement, potential.
So when we put the new banners up, they will have public parking, so it'll at least help people see where public parking is.
Mhm.
Right now, we've ordered 6.
Do you know,
More.
I just learned this when I was in Mount Clemens, that the I can't remember if it's the MEDC or Macomb County, Mount Clemens contracts with them, pays them, I would say nominal. So if it's $1,200 a year, whatever, they've actually created for them a GIS online website for their that sort of stuff. We can look at those sort of things.
Yeah. Would the village council be open to the DDA presenting at your next meeting?
yeah,
A full-on presentation of what this app would look like and what it could do?
that'd be cool.
I think that's what we're asking.
Right.
You are going to be ready in that amount of time, though? Because it's actually quite quicker than you'd
weeks, I
think. Because, so it's the 15th, Monday is the 1st, and you'd have to have it in by the 9th. So, I mean, that's really close. Tuesday, yeah, the 9th. So if
I mean, at least
Monday's,
get the
the-
ball rolling. If it has to get pushed till August, but at least we're making good progress in it.
I'm open to it. If you get it to me by then, absolutely. I just
And
want
then-
you to be aware of the
Yeah,
timeline.
Yeah, we'll,
And then one of the other options is to revisit the code requirements and then come up with a cost structure per business that pays for the parking as a whole, make it reasonable, and to be honest, because we're in the downtown, I would set it at a cap per, like, the restaurant will pay this. Make it a reasonable amount, not per parking spot, because it'll get really out of control, but I would say parking for this, and then,
You have to be careful with that, because you can't just clarify restaurants, because there's different sizes and capacity, so I think you have to look at the capacity.
but I would make it a nominal amount. None of that, it's gonna hurt the customer, but over a long period of time, it adds up.
Capacity.
Like no more than X amount a year.
$500 a year, that's not gonna hurt nobody, but for you guys, $500 every year from every business, times how many years, it adds up, and it compounds. You put that money in the bank, and it keeps compounding. So my point is, you can have it as a small amount, and you can utilize that for maintenance. The businesses aren't going to, it's a nominal amount for a business. Don't make it so crazy where it's gonna, like John said, where it's gonna be like 15 grand or something. Right now, you get nothing.
So are you talking PILOP, or are you
I'm
talking,
talking about
which one?
eliminating the pilot, or have the pilot $1, so we have an option, but I'm talking about to generate enough money to bridge the gap of your shortfall on your maintenance, that the businesses have to pay
Yearly.
a premium to be a restaurant or a, you know, a hair salon or whatever.
but don't you think we need to know what that shortfall is? Like, so we
Sure.
can explain it to people of why they're now going to have to pay this extra money for maintenance. You know,
But
I
if you
don't
told a business they're coming in and you're gonna start a tattoo parlor, and then every year on your tax bill, one time a year, you're gonna get a $500 charge for maintenance of the parking lot, they would pay that bill and never think about it again.
The building owner will pay it,
Yeah.
taxes, not the business
Yeah.
itself.
Right, because it's just,
So are you taxing the business owner, or are you taxing the building owner?
It would have to be the property.
it would be the property and however they wanna use it, but it would have to be for that use.
And the only challenge with that, which would be your challenge to figure out, is when my tattoo parlor that was deemed 4 spots turns into a coffee shop that's deemed
Yeah.
15 spots.
That
You
changes.
have to
You have to
walk into the building
reanalyze
it,
and
so-
actually, you have to apply for your certificate of occupancy no matter what business you are,
Yeah.
correct? And you have to list what your business is. I'm just saying, a compounding effect with all of the businesses contributing would be way better
I agree.
than one or
Yeah.
two.
Yeah.
$1,000. If I gave you $1,000 per spot, it five grand. What are you gonna do with that?
Take forever.
You
Yeah.
get 1,000 years.
Yeah.
You got $500 for me every single year.
And
for-
all of us.
And everybody for 5 years. I mean, I don't have a calculator, but it's gonna add up to
Yeah.
something significant. And it will bridge that shortfall. But don't make it so much where like the restaurant's like, it's a $5,000 fee every year, and now they might start being like, that's not fair. 'Cause remember, you gotta sell this to everybody else that is paying zero.
And I guess those rates would have to be determined from an analysis of how many restaurants don't have enough spaces, how many businesses, coffee shops, whatever,
Just
don't
make it
have
a
enough
flat
space.
fee. I wouldn't even make it a per spot, I would just make it a flat fee.
Per business?
Per business. That way you're not judging it on the amount of spots. per
Because you're
se.
still not getting a spot.
Because you're getting nothing right now.
It's still only our money regardless if I have
Yeah,
50
I'm
spots
not getting
and
a
John
spot,
has 2.
But you're
We're
getting
still-
money from me for particular spots
But,
somewhere.
yeah, the lots that we're maintaining aren't changing size depending on how many clients or customers we have. So if I bring 50 customers on a day and John brings 100 customers, it's still one parking lot.
Right.
That's being
Right.
so now we're talking maintenance.
And I'm thinking of for
So
your
I'm
guys.
not, there's no more to maintain
Yeah.
for me, depending on how many times I turn that spot over. The striping
Right.
is the striping and the ceiling's the ceiling
I'm
regardless.
thinking
That's
of, from your
interesting.
guys' standpoint too, if you walk over to Office Pub and say you gotta pay per spot, it's gonna be a thing. They're gonna be sitting here on that microphone, and if you're gonna tell them
Yeah.
you're gonna pay $500, it's gonna be on your tax bill, they're gonna roll out with business.
So would you classify, I know you kind of mentioned it or touched on it, would you classify by type of business or just business as a business?
So I would
There's a flat
classify my
rate.
type of business, because a restaurant has a lot more customer base than
Mhm.
like a, I don't know, I would group businesses, let's just say.
Yeah,
Or-
Service business, restaurant.
retail, whatever.
Or what if
retail.
you're like Kathy's business and she has all of her parking? And so now I'm charging her even though she doesn't she meets her requirements. There has to be
Sell that
something.
lot and then need the parking in the
But
future,
then
or the next owner
argument
could.
is, sorry Kathy, the argument is that
People parking on Main Street.
are there people parking that go into your store that are not here? With this structure?
Doesn't matter, I have my own parking.
Yeah, it might not be fair to everybody, but it's gotta be a group mentality. The
And then
business
I
is
have a lot of people
business.
that parking lot, in my parking lot that don't go into my store.
That stinks, yeah.
I have a lot of that, more so probably even than.
I know, I'm just
So you might be the one-off.
I have a lot
You
of
have a
that.
great thing, yeah.
I do, but I'm the one in.
It would still be $500. I know it's not it's a lot of money.
I mean, you still have people that are parking somewhere else that aren't in your lot that are coming.
They're walking over from
Right.
the
Spending money.
restaurant or something.
And I'm fine with that, and I don't have, I'm probably, I know one in.
So if a business has a
few
private lot, can
that
they get a
have
credit
that.
from that? I mean,
But I.
No,
have-
because
That'd be hard to
they
assess.
may
$100
have,
a piece.
you may have a private lot, but I may have parked on Main
Right,
Street.
you might walk.
To
in the
use your
coffee shop
business.
And then ended up in
yeah,
your
so
place.
it's gotta be applied to everyone, I
Because
guess.
Yeah, because I can't imagine the people parking in front of your business on Main Street.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How many of them
You
are,
know.
I mean, there's a few that might walk to the coffee shop
Right,
or
across
to
the
the
board.
restaurant
trying to go
after you
backwards in
close,
time,
but
If
most of
make
those
it
people
more
are parking,
complicated than what
coming
it is,
into your
people
shop.
never get anything done.
Actually,
Right.
you'd be
You know what I mean?
surprised, it's not.
Okay, so I have,
Maybe it's changed.
I have
Yeah.
parking app, wayfinding, code requirements we need to review to see cost per parking, flat fee, whatever. Was there anything else?
There's one more that I'll bring up for one more problem there. There've been multiple mentions of employee parking. And whatever, I'll use myself as the example. I've got employees and they park in a, if we're gonna call it a prime spot. We need to encourage businesses such as myself to have those employees park somewhere else, is what I've heard tonight. We need, and I don't know if this may be a DDA project, where is somewhere else? Because my somewhere else might be in Danielle's spot. My somewhere else is, hey, Kathy's got parking across the street. So
100
we need
feet.
to define and suggest to these businesses, where is this somewhere else?
That's a good point. And that might touch into leasing on a private property's
That
lot or.
that is defined currently, that you can, I don't know, like a borrow lot, I guess.
Within so many
It has to
feet.
be within
It- to-
300 walking feet.
That's to supplement your pileup.
That's
Correct.
different, that's different. I'm not
That's
talking
different.
about that. I'm
So I know
talking about
historically,
my
right,
employees.
like the Office
I'm gonna-
Pub used to
I'm
tell
gonna
their
go
people to
send the
park on
office
Lafayette.
Pub to park, great, I just solved my problem, now the.
Yeah.
office-
Creating
You
their
didn't.
So
problem.
Yeah.
let's find,
Well,
where
you
is
know,
it that we want to send
The
them to?
barber, he parks across the street, across Main Street, all the way on the other side of the gas station. Every
Yeah.
day.
But we
Every
could,
day.
as far as to
That's a hike, even
define.
in the wintertime.
Dan's a
Because
good
he
guy.
wants good spots for his clients.
But it's a,
I-
it's
I
a
hear
spot
you.
for
I just want
customers.
that specified, so we
Yeah.
can
She's saying he
encourage
parks-
businesses
walks
to do
quite a
this.
Where do you wanna put
Right
him?
now,
Yeah.
I'll
Where does-
walk
where
into
does
a
he park?
business And I'll say, hey, Shane,
At
you
the
park
Pit Stop
somewhere
gas
else.
station.
Well, that
Yeah.
doesn't do anybody any
He
good.
parks
because-
there every day,
Customer spot.
wintertime, and he walks back to the barber
So
shop.
he's leaving prime spots for his customers.
He's leaving prime spot.
I mean, that's the name of the game, and maybe that employee
Yeah.
parking.
But is
piece
that
is-
prime spots for another business?
Right next to you.
Right, well, that's what we're saying, is,
Yeah, I
so
know they
where
all
do we
park.
want our employees
He's
to
a
park?
tattoo guy at the barber
Oh,
shop.
well, what's his name?
Talk to you after.
So if we
So-
want to define where we want our employees to be at, you know, is it partnering with, I'm not putting it on you, partnering with the church, or partnering with a public, you know, a space? Is that the way we handle employee? Do we say the lot behind you becomes an employee lot? You know, that's something that has to be decided, is
So-
where do we want them to go?
Can a next step or project for, I don't know who it would be designated to, but identify some private lots that are within the DDA that are walkable that we can try to approach and discuss leasing to?
I think within the DDA is gonna be an issue. If you were talking
Probably.
employee parking, I
Within,
think you've gotta look outside of the DDA.
what is that reference of 300 walking feet?
That's for,
What is that from?
Bank
for
parking.
Payment in lieu of.
Okay,
Yeah.
You can be within, I think it was 250, 300 feet of your business if you wanted to rent spots.
oh, if that business wanted to rent a private lot?
Yeah,
Not
if
as
they
okay.
had the,
For sale, but that's residential. It's outside.
So our next steps are you're going to potentially
Present.
try and get on the July agenda
Yeah, we'll be
for at least the app. Do we want any re-meeting? Do we want any smaller? Do we all want to continue as large group? Do you
We
want to
wanna do
have any,
It may be more productive to have a smaller.
do you want to give each one
representative from both.
focus?
There's an awful lot of cross-talking and consider, which is great, all good
we do it like a 3 and 3 committee, 3?
I would like, I would agree, like a subcommittee that put together an agenda of focus for the whole group to narrow it down to on the next meeting.
Well, each person made their own positive point, which is a good thing.
Yeah.
I mean, brought me up to speed on what's going on, so.
We need all of those different
Yeah.
ideas.
so
Melissa?
It's better just to shoot it out there. I mean,
I don't,
valid, everybody's got valid points.
I don't wanna go backwards too much, but, if we're revisiting some of the wording and things, for the pilot one, could we maybe look at adopting the federal minimum for parking requirements? Cause right now, the federal minimum is actually double what we require. So, right now, it'll say like 2 occupants per vehicle is what is in a spot, and the federal is 4. So that might change the parking requirements for certain definitions if we didn't cut them in half.
You're saying for like a building?
So like,
occupancy?
if the ordinance says, okay, you have to have, 10 spots
Okay.
because you can have 20 people or
Yeah,
whatever. It's 20 people because we're saying there's only 2 people per car.
Oh, I see.
And the federal is 4 people.
It's more
per
carpool,
car.
okay.
So that changes the required amount of parking needed for the business. Like, we're requiring more than anywhere else.
That was one of my suggestions.
Well, I would say, isn't that into with the code requirement? Isn't that the whole idea with that?
Yeah, so that's what I was getting
Okay.
at. Like, it doesn't create a parking spot, but it eases a burden of the parking spot.
Yeah.
It's fair.
Because our residential parking codes are far greater than our surrounding areas, just in general, being a developer. They're more than like Rochester, Royal Oak, Oxford, and that's not they probably just haven't been revisited in a while, maybe they should be. It's nobody's fault, things just change over time, you know?
That was many of the suggestions in these studies, was that those ordinances had to be reviewed.
Yeah,
Yeah, that would be my only other suggestion. is
Do you have
maybe-
those numbers?
yeah. My architect, he's like, I would love to present to the board.
Yeah, if you have the number from the surrounding
Yeah.
municipalities,
I can give you
and
that.
we can get that at the next meeting, that'd be great.
We can also, Macomb County, they have that GIS, the mapping, that we can find out how many people are here, how long they stay, what time of day, all the things.
The other day. for the
We just have
DDA.
to ask them the right, we just have to ask for it.
Yeah, I know you're talking about.
Um,
So do we have?
Do we want a
three-
what is the subcommittees looking like? I don't want to be on any more subcommittees.
Well,
Sorry, I'm cashed out with subcommittees.
Paul would-
Yeah.
I love talking
I'll
about
be
it.
in whatever subcommittee you guys want.
All right, so Melissa, Paul, then someone else want to be on it? I think we should have,
What is, because
I'll
I'm
do it.
out for town.
and Danielle, you'll do it?
Yeah.
All right, so we have Danielle, Paul, and Melissa.
And who wants to be on it from?
I'll be on it.
I'll do it as well. I guess we can offer
We're going to wait for
offer
Matt and Shelley.
Shelley.
I know.
Volunteer one of
We got a lot of managers,
Yeah,
not a lot of doers. Sorry, I'm subcommitteed out
Yeah.
yeah.
I think, it's a long time coming, we can do the right thing.
Mhm.
We have smart people in this room.
Well, and if this is all we have, I trust your judgment. Bring us this information. Let's move forward. I think if you bring with the parking app, we're kind of already getting to the addressing of wayfinding. Code requirement, and that one's gonna be a way bigger one to bite off there. And employee parking. I mean, that one seems like it shouldn't be that much.
I want
John?
to thank everybody, trustees, for letting us come and join this meeting and having the conversation. We're not going to agree, but we got to come to something.
Still helpful, yeah.
Great.
Huge first step.
Thank you for doing
And thank you,
this.
John. You leave your car at home and you walk to work every day.
Yeah,
Very
This is
nice.
a little,
So who's the subcommittee representatives?
Are you?
Danielle, Paul, and Melissa.
Someone want to be in charge of
Completely, yes.
contact, or who's gonna chair it or initiate? Not me.
We'll just
You mind?
require
Thank
separate
you.
minutes from each board then.
Motion to adjourn?
Probably, yeah.
I think though the PILOT, the idea of that in the ordinance still needs to be handled at the council table.
I think so.
I think we need to figure out an amount.
The question is, where do they want to go with everything? It's obviously, great conversations. I do like
Well, we'll come with a
The parking,
presentation, we've already started on the wayfinding, so there's already some pieces that
Some movement.
we're doing.
That's good.
Um,
I liked your spin, Paul, on what I talked about, like.
Yeah, we
payment
can,
per business, but just a
It's
set fee.
8:49.
I like that.
And you forget about, you just,
I make a,
Just motion to adjourn.
yeah,
likes to spin.
make a motion to adjourn.
Second? We
Second.
second.
All,
I second
all in
it.
favor?
Oh, you said-
I did.
We have a-
real quick, before we adjourn, then we can go. Is,
Danielle?
one of these meetings, I would also like to talk about
Danielle Lee.
the,